is it.
Yep.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to look through the agenda? Approve that. If we have. Finance report, you got any questions?
Just to take a look at that, if you would, a couple of things to go through there. And Nancy's gonna come in, we're gonna talk about recapitalizing the revolving loan fund a little bit here later in the packet. But you can see that, we really haven't had the loan income, so as a result, we're kind of on our last, sort of little bit of loan we're talking about today a little bit. So, anyways, just something to keep in mind is that, we've got to do some updating there. Other than that, I think the financials kind of speak for themselves. You'll see the contract that ended at the end of the last month, so you can see that there's some payroll. We're about halfway into payroll. I think we've got $23,000 of payroll left this year that'll go from, instead of being at the to exceed, it'll go towards the full-time employee costs as a related cost. So, anywho.
Okay. I was just looking at the funds, so the millwork, he's gonna start paying in August?
I believe end of August, September would be his first payment.
Okay.
Yeah, his first payment would be due.
Looks like his building's starting to...
Yeah,
Move along.
they're finally in mode. That was nice. Just nice to clean it up a lot. But yeah, it's the frame's all up. I think it's actually been slower than I expected, but I'm sure it's been slower than he expected too.
Always is.
I've got a ton done inside the building as far as I can tell.
There was a plumbing truck inside there.
Well, good. That's great that they're working on that. I know that
Plumbing or HVAC,
it takes
whatever.
a while to get contractors and everything, but yeah, it's coming along. And I'm sure that we'll have an update from him probably later this summer.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hadn't we asked for an update when we gave him the, no payments for the...
Yeah, he was here once.
He came in March and
March.
updated the EDA, and I could certainly request that he come again and give us a time frame. That's a good idea.
So I know he's due.
Yeah, I thought it was, September.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's not going as fast as he expects, but nothing is.
Nothing ever does.
You know, it's life.
Well, I'll ask that he come in August and give us an update on what his time frame is, so.
If he's available.
Obviously, his loan will be coming due at the end of the month, so it'll be good for him to let us know where he's at, and if he wants to request a extension or something like that from the board. Otherwise, as you can see, we've got, $70,000 tied up there, and we've got $49,000 tied up with the Chaotic Good Brewing, so.
So, what do you mean his loan will be coming due?
The payments will start again.
He'll have to
Sorry.
start paying his payment.
Payments.
Yeah.
Payments will
Loan.
be starting, yeah, it'll be due to,
Your loan.
it'll be due to start again, I guess, is what I should say.
Payments will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he had a
Okay.
break due to,
Yeah, that's what I thought we had given him, yeah.
coordinator's report, do you want that, Tim, or?
Robert did not give me a wrap-up, so I don't know that I have a lot to update him.
Okay.
We did meet with the new employee, and hopefully he'll be starting on the 11th of July. So other than that, I don't know that I have an update from Robert, so.
And your administrator's report's in here.
Sure. Mostly dealing with a conference I attended. Really interesting to hear the feedback regarding the supply chain issues and things like that. Just a lot of backlog, and the electric industry is changing so dramatically. It's fascinating to see, and as the council members know, we have some increases in power costs this year. A lot of the renewables are coming out of the market, and they're not really providing the baseline power that most Americans are used to.
Mm-hmm.
I know even this morning there was an alert issued by our the CRC, which is our company that we're using for supply support. They are tracking it all week this week with severe weather, and it's been, it's kind of a trade-off. You've got days where it's really hot, but there's sun shining, so it allows for that energy with the solar, but, all it takes is one really hot day when the wind isn't blowing, and that's what's going to be the killer, because those wind turbines don't turn. There was a day earlier last month that they were very fortunate not to go over. We're actually under capacity nationwide, and then MISO, which is the Midwestern market, is severely under capacity this year for power. So fascinating stuff. But they did expect that the supply chain issues, they felt like over the next 3 to 6 months would be rectified. And then the next issue that we talked about was dealing with some of the other concerns of inflation, and that's more of an 18-month, they think more of an 18-month process. And then the the labor market, they don't expect that to correct really until the seniors start coming back into the market and folks that maybe need to go back to work after having retired early, because that's about the only solution they see outside of mechanization, which will get rid of a lot of the service sector jobs. For example, at McDonald's or something like that, they'll just eliminate a lot of those lower end jobs. So it was very fascinating to see that. Other than that, city's moving forward. Construction project, obviously on 57, they've had ideal weather conditions, and they're actually a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. So I've had a chance to go up there and look at that. Moving forward with that, I think they'd really like to get started on the next phase. So we'll see how that works. The fair is set to happen in 2 weeks, and we don't want to interfere with that. But as soon as that's done, I think they'll be ripping and tearing into that next section. So that's good. Library project is starting to get close to wrap up.
Looks good.
It does. It looks a lot better. They need to seal up the top areas along the building where some of the water infiltration was, but the siding's up, and hopefully they'll get that done. That's another one where, I don't know, supply chain didn't help them there, but otherwise, yeah, just getting ready for everything else going on this summer, so.
Okay. Next up, we got the crop science investigation revolving loan fund request.
Sure, and this is sort of a preliminary request. The folks on the loan committee took a look at it last week, and they had a number of sort of contingencies or things that they wanted to see, and I haven't gotten information on all of them yet. So Robert presented this to Janice, myself, and to Dan, and it's a request for $25,000. It's not a very large request, but primarily for cleanup of that site. This company and this Mr. Littrell, his family, is looking at acquiring the site. I've got an email out to his accountants and also out to him himself over the holiday weekend. Obviously not a lot of feedback, but expecting to correspond with them regarding exactly where they're at in the process of acquiring the site. And, of course, we wouldn't be giving any loans until the property's acquired. So what they're looking at is they've got a couple different businesses involved in it. He's a farmer and out by Chatfield, and this business itself is kind of interesting, where I guess it's mostly to do with nutrients and testing and things like that. I'm not necessarily very knowledgeable about that part of the industry myself, but it seems like it could be a good application. Waiting for some of that information before we actually would authorize a loan, but I'd love if anybody had questions. I know that, like I said, Janice and Dan were reviewing it too, so if they've got things to bring up, they're certainly welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at its numbers, but I mean, you can write anything, but.
I'm thinking he might be jumping the gun a little bit ahead of himself because the property is not bought. I myself, I know that we're talking about putting some more financing into our loan capabilities, but that would leave us with zero.
Right.
And something could happen where a business established in town would need some support or help now. So I'm thinking that come back and see us when you're purchased. When you're actually, I think his application's a little sketchy. Things that are not quite, I think he rushed too much maybe to get it in, and it's questionable to me. Because it's LLC, and then it's check to partnership, and it's just, I think I'd like to see him or whoever actually owns the company at, a meeting when they actually get the property.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a very, I think that's definitely a good thing to, I don't think we want to loan any money until the property's acquired. It doesn't make any sense to do that, right?
Well, I don't even want to promise him that we're going to loan him.
Well, anytime, we don't, I'm not promising anything.
Yeah, or give him
But yeah, this is a preliminary review of a project that could be a good loan, and I think it's good for us to be familiar with it before, because, that's another thing. I can certainly invite him to come to our August meeting and present, and hopefully at that time, the actual ownership of the property will be a little bit clearer. The thing to remember is that we are only looking at, he's asking us for money to help with cleanup, which I think is is probably warranted. You know, obviously the site's got a lot of issues that need to be mitigated, but yeah, I agree that until the property's acquired, I don't think we would want to loan any money out, so.
Well, I'm thinking that the current owner could ask us for money to clean it up so he could have a better prospect to sell it,
Well,
or do something
Get
else with
equity
it.
to pledge
so-
for a loan, absolutely, yeah.
Well,
because as of right now on this, so, I mean, he's got $600,000 equity of his own, $300,000 loan, which was through People's. You know, I mean,
where did you see the $600,000 equity?
source of funds.
Okay, and it doesn't even have totals.
So, and he's got a 5-year, he's looking at a 5-year contract for deed on this property. He closing, it was in here, he closes, in July. It was in here somewhere.
The estimated project
Start date is 7/20.
I don't think that's happening.
So that means he's already going through, I don't know.
And like I said, I'm still waiting for a response, as I said, I mean, we only reviewed this on Thursday.
We were asking.
And I got the email from Robert to send out to Mr. Luttrell on Friday, so, I mean, I'm expecting to be in touch with him this week, and I just wanted to bring this to you, because it was on our agenda, and it's good to talk about it, and I'm glad to see some kind of movement on that property, because obviously it's an eyesore, and it's a property, you know, the council would love to have, get cleaned up as well, so definitely some things to take a look at, and I think having him come and present would be ideal, because then he can talk about exactly what he's gonna be doing, or what he's anticipating doing on the site as well, so.
Did we actually hear anything back from the actual owner?
Once again, I've contacted him, and I haven't got a response back, so I know you dropped that off on Friday, and I
Yeah.
left a voicemail for Mr.
Yeah.
Hinderman over there in Rochester, and I haven't got anything back from him yet today, but like I said, holiday weekend, a lot of people are out of town this
Yeah.
week, I understand that, and
So-
I don't think, as I said, it's a rush on this, because I mean, it makes sense for us to wait until somebody owns the property, and they're really, you know, the money is not as big of a deal to me to make sure we do everything right, you know, I think
Yeah.
that's key,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, that's,
And if you guys want to talk about this a little more, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to go run and get Nancy. She can talk about that recapitalization a little bit, okay?
If somebody can clean that site up and make money at it, that'd be a bonus, but his 5-year plan was in here too, of the buildings that he wanted to build. That's towards the end of it.
Yeah, all that's irrelevant. Until he owns the land, he comes in and talks to us, it's a non-issue. I mean, I could write down what I'm gonna do in 5 years, and
It doesn't mean it'll happen, I know.
so until he owns it and he comes in and talks to us, I mean, I have no problem doing it. If he owns land and he's got a good plan and it meets our criteria for the loan, I'm all for it.
yeah, I am too.
Until he owns
I'd
the
like
land,
to
that's
see
a non-issue until he actually has it.
something
Yeah.
improved, anything. Cleaning up-
Anything.
Improvement.
Thank you.
But I do know that, the actual owner, is not necessarily in this circle. So I'm a little hesitant.
Okay, so what you've got before you is last December's balance sheet. So, without looking too much at the detail yet, I just want to explain the EDA, when we budget, when we set our tax levies, we budget for a break even. So if your expenditures look like they're $100,000, you're going to get a tax levy on $100,000. So whatever you've got this year, we're going to assume you're going to spend. Now, you don't actually see those dollars until July and December, but you have your budget. Well, lo and behold, I pulled up last December because EDA is a special revenue fund, and whatever funds are unspent, once we've transferred the levies to that fund, they stay in that fund, and it accumulates. So technically, your beginning balance at the beginning of every year should be zero, assuming you've spent what you've budgeted, but that doesn't always happen. So over the last few years, and I didn't go back and look at a couple of years, but at December, you essentially had $81,656 in cash, that's start item, But we knew at the end of the year, when we record all of our accruals, that you'd need to spend about $4,400 of that on some accounts payable. So, and net effect at the end of December, over the years, however many years it was, EDA hadn't spent close to $75,000. But you have control over those funds, so you have $75,000 that you can use somehow. And I understand that you're looking at quote-unquote capitalizing or funding your loan funds. And so what's happened in the past, once or twice, maybe, I can't give you the year, but you've transferred some money from your EDA, this Fund 290, to your loan funds. And I would recommend that that be how you spend some of it. Or maybe you have some special projects coming up that you know you might want to use some dollars. Well, here's a source for it. Because it's going to stay in EDA. The council's not asking it back. They're not going to ask to transfer it to another fund. It's yours to use, but since you have specific loan funds, then I would recommend that you have about $75,000 available to transfer any portion thereof to those loan funds if you indeed have loans that you want to be making. And it's particularly not it's your revolving loan fund, I'm assuming. It's not your federal MIF that we can't touch.
And then one other point, Nancy brought this up too, is so this second line, you've got cash operating, the second line is due from other funds. And so Nancy, that's the amount that's owed to the EDA from the TIF district, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So if you recall that we have that downtown TIF, that's sort of a non-functioning TIF right now, but that's, so that's what that number, that 81,000 is. So.
Yeah, and so we're always hoping at some point that'll be sold and that we can collect some of it, but right now it's still open, and you all have discussed it over the years every once in a while, and you've chosen to leave that. You haven't chosen to write it off or anything, so.
You're talking about the lot on Main Street?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the TIF district covered other properties as well, but that's the residual property that's left in the TIF district.
Okay,
Yeah,
because,
so that was, it actually was made up of acquiring the two properties and the demolition of, and it's added up to this along with, I think, 10, 12 in interest over the years, and a couple of years ago, you also chose not to quit charging interest because where does it get you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
and we did sell part.
Yeah,
Of that
that's true.
trout.
I don't think.
No, that was a separate
That was
lot.
separate.
And
Yeah, that
was a
wasn't in,
city-
that wasn't in the TIF.
You guys took care of it, but it was a city-owned lot, that part behind for
Okay,
about five.
that went
Yeah, so that
to
didn't
trout.
come through EDA.
And part of me wonders if we shouldn't just write that off too, honestly, I don't know.
We're never gonna,
I don't know what the point of keeping it on the books is. I mean, those lots are worth very little, really. I don't know.
they've
Give me a
been
dollar
for sale for a
figure.
while.
What's that?
Give me a dollar figure, I'd like to know what our lots are worth.
Yeah. I mean, I think a non-buildable lot on Main Street, it's not worth a lot, depending on.
What do you mean by
Well,
non-buildable?
'cause it's only 22 feet wide, so I mean,
Well,
each
mine's
lot.
only 22 foot wide, but it's buildable, isn't it?
I guess it depends on, what kind of impact you want to have on the neighboring buildings next
yeah,
door.
I mean, yeah. Anything's
That'd be
buildable.
I think it'd be very difficult to.
Hey, don't say non-buildable, for God's sake.
But I mean, where that one sits,
Yeah, I mean, once you start excavating the ground, and I don't know. I mean, obviously we can debate whether they're buildable or not buildable, but I don't foresee there'd be the risk that somebody would have to take to put a foundation in next to a building. I mean, there are a number of older buildings that are adjoining. That would be, in my opinion, probably the biggest risk. I don't know. You own a building on Main Street, what do you think? I mean, Mike's not here today.
Everything's buildable to the right person for
I
what they
guess,
wanna
yeah.
do. I mean,
Yeah.
whether,
That's true.
that lot probably has less value than, say, the two or
The three
the three
lots
that
that
triple
we
it.
have, yeah.
Obviously, it's a bigger lot, but, I mean, anything's buildable, just a matter of who and what risk they're willing to take.
I was gonna say, didn't Robert come to us with a plan of a three-story
Yeah.
yeah.
building there when the brewing company was trying to get on Main
There was a
Street?
lot of plans, but I think when it comes down to the numbers, people start looking.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a possibility,
Oh,
a three-story whatever.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, like you and Chris said, everything's buildable per se, it's just how much risk, how much,
let's get back to the...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, ideally,
Sorry.
you'll wanna sell those lots someday, and hopefully it'll be something for which you can collect
You
the
keep
tax.
saying lots, isn't it just one
Two.
lot?
Three parcels. Well, we sold one though. so-
Right,
no.
so there's 2 parcels left.
It was a
Parcels
two
left.
parcel
yeah.
lot.
Okay, so it's behind though, isn't it 22 foot wide?
22 foot wide, and
Yeah,
there's...
and then deep, is
Parcel
that?
behind it, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, basically what we landed on is we'd like to sell them together as one unit. Like, because otherwise you end up with a weird piece that's not really accessible.
Oh, yeah,
So
Okay.
you could access it if we converted that lot into an alleyway, but otherwise you don't have an access to it officially.
Right.
So what's our balance, I was just looking on the balance,
okay, yeah.
in our facade improvement program? How many dollars do we have left in that?
Oh, I didn't print that out.
I'm just wondering, so we have the $75 that we can recapitalize into the revolving loan fund, but should we take some of that and put it in the facade improvement
Well,
program?
it would be in the,
don't see a line item for that.
budget would show how much you've spent this year. Now, if you have some that you think you had left over from last year, that would be part of this
Part of the 75, okay.
$75,000. Yeah.
We had budgeted 17,000 for the
Yeah.
facade.
Commercial program?
Yeah.
And I don't know how much we've
I
spent.
don't know exactly how much we spent, but actually, I'm trying to think if there's been...
Caddick Brewing?
Just
Two,
put
I
one in
think.
and somebody else had in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Caddick Brewing asked, and then, that was probably...
Oh, Daisy May. Didn't we do something
We
on?
did some signage for...
Signage for that one.
shop, or for the old shop.
For the old shop.
Yeah, and I don't know
Wasn't
if we've seen those bills yet either, so...
Well,
I thought we had seen Daisy, I thought we'd paid Daisy.
Well, we offered to do it, and they were, because we partially approved it, because they also wanted the little fold-out
Out front.
sign.
And we
I
said
think
no to
we said
those.
no to the
No.
little fold-out sign, but the stuff on the building.
Right.
I don't know if they ever submitted anything or not.
And I think basically they were like, well, you're denying us, and then,
Okay.
hey,
I
so I
thought
don't know
that
if we
was,
ever got it.
We've got a line item for that for this year, so...
that wasn't Daisy May, I thought that was.
Yeah, so I think facade-wise, we're still
Other
probably
Cherry
pretty well
Cherry
covered for the
Stanty.
year.
But
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
all,
sure, yeah, but they're all in the same unit.
So I'll make a motion
They're
to
all
recapitalize the
separate businesses.
$75,000 into the revolving loan fund.
They are,
Yeah.
yeah.
all in favor? We're making a motion to take 75.
I made a motion to take the 75 and put it in the revolving loan fund.
Do we have a second?
Aye.
Oh. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Yeah, I'll make that transfer this month then. Thank you.
Thank you, then,
Yeah.
that way we have a little more spending.
And Tom, do you understand where we're going there?
What, is there?
We had some money that wasn't spent in past years that we're gonna now allocate to the revolving loan fund.
Okay, and you're
It was the balance.
saying 75,
It's about 75,000.
75,000.
Rough.
Okay.
give
So
or
we have
take.
25,000 on the books right now, we'll have
Yep.
75,000, so right now, the balance would be around 100,000.
okay, got it. Okay, no, that sounds great.
Now, ready?
So, do you think the request for cleanup will go up if we have more money available?
His request can do whatever he wants, I suppose, once he owns it, then it's just up to us how much we would approve
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go forward it. Yeah.
Okay,
Because, yeah, he capped it at 25 before, because that's all we had.
'cause that's all, yeah, so we'd want to, yeah,
But we'd, yeah.
have,
And we could put a limit on
estimate
it.
of where that'd be
Yep.
spent.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right. Next is our transition plan for onboarding our new coordinator to the EDA. You said July 11th is their
Yeah,
start
that's
date?
their planned start date, trying to get housing in Casson right now, so I know that they, were looking at apartments last week, so, you could see the packet there that Robert had kinda came up with. He had gone through and looked at the, all the items, and I met with Ian last week and, with Robert, and we talked about a number of these items, and just sort of tried to let him know that, we're here to support him, and the EDA is here to support him, and that sort of thing, and I wanted to make sure, I know that, Chris already mentioned a couple of items that he felt like we might deprioritize a little bit, but, are there any other, items you'd like added to that, sort of list there, you feel like might be good adds to, that you feel are good pending business items to share with our new, member?
where is that?
Starts on page 43 in your
Last
packet.
couple, 2 pages.
Starts,
Right.
yeah, where it says contacts, it looks like.
I'm looking for page numbers.
Oh, there's not on,
Oh.
Yeah, you
That's
got-
fine.
You're not counting by hand? This,
You're not counting.
this page right here, it starts there and it keeps going.
So on that second to last page, you can kind of see where the projects that are still sort of pending, the larger projects anyways. The Rethos downtown assessment, that's pending. The crop science, this one's sort of pending. Mr. Warshower and the historic school redevelopment, which I was told last week the lawsuit was dismissed, so that's exciting news. That's good to hear. Hopefully they'll
But
continue
they
to
have
move forward.
60 days to
Feel it?
appeal or
Sure.
come back or do something.
Sure.
Yeah, and then the sand companies, they've got that housing proposal there, that's getting ready to get submitted to the state. Hamilton, the council's already approved the pre-plat, or the preliminary plat. They're looking at approving the final plat in July here, and then Hamilton would like to close in July on that first lot. They have an option on that second lot in the four-lot development there, and we'll be getting quotes, or not quotes rather, but bids on the construction for the street project at the meeting on the 13th of July as well. So they're handling another project on the community development desk, which is the fire hall project a little bit, working with them on that, or continue to work with them on that. Then the Main Street, obviously, we haven't had a lot of interest in those loans yet. Obviously, that program will be a 2-year program. It'll go through next year because none of the businesses will be directly impacted this year, or shouldn't be directly impacted to a large degree. And then a couple of the other larger projects that we've looked at. So then he's got his follow-ups there as well. So anything else anyone can think of to add to their list there? I think it's a good starting point, and obviously things develop as we go forward. People contact us and that sort of thing. So I don't want to scare them too much right away, but I think that it's a good starting list. And some of the regular meeting prep and things like that, that'll be good for them to train on. You know, during our interview process, we found that it was very difficult for us to find anyone who had a lot of experience. And I think that's typical for anybody hiring nowadays. Ian's a recent college graduate. He doesn't have a lot of experience, but he'll be training with me and with our staff here, and we'll do the best we can with them. And, it's not unlike when we've had changeovers from CEDA before. It takes a little while for them to kind of ramp up into their knowledge base, and they grow into it a little bit. And we're hoping that we also can do some training with him on the planning side of things. Right now, Brad Scheib is our contract planner from Heisington Kegler, and I think that Ian's very interested. He's got a background in doing some of the GIS work when he was in university, and he'd like to continue to do that as well. So hopefully that'll be a positive for us. He's very, very friendly young man, and very affable, a very good attitude, I think. So we'll see how it goes. You never quite know nowadays.
Well, everybody is that way when they apply.
What's that?
I've known, having hired some employees, they're wonderful when they're applying.
Right.
Who shows up can be a different thing.
That's true. Yeah, you never know. That is definitely true.
This might be better in the long run, like you say, because if we get somebody trained and they stay instead of the transition period with CEDA.
Well, I think it's always going to be hard to keep employees forever, but I'd hope to keep someone for 3 to 5 years. That'd be ideal if possible, just because of the continuity. And like I said, I think part of it, a lot of younger employees, what I'm finding is they want, obviously everybody wants the money, but also ability to grow as an employee, and I think that's really important to that newest cohort of job seekers. I date myself, and I'm not that old, but it's one of those ones where you definitely see changes in the job market with your applicants than you did 10, 15, 20 years ago, and part of it is that they want to be able to move up. They don't want to be at that same level, and so ideally, he would start at the level he's going to be at, which is community development assistant, and he'd be able to go up to that, coordinator position at some point in the future where it'd allow him to kind of grow into that. And for a community of our size, it's just difficult to, we're not going to be able to pay somebody the $150,000 a year for this kind of work, and they would still need support from other outside vendors anyways. But I think it'll be nice to have him in office full-time. I think that's really the strength of it. Robert was doing a good job, but we had very little of his work output because he just wasn't here that much. And when he was here, part of his contract is that he's working on whoever he's working on. So it doesn't mean that he's really working on Caston when he's here. He's working on whoever needs to be worked on his contract-wise. So it's a little different model. But I think we'll give it a shot and see how it goes, and you never know.
Because if he wanted to go up, is that your job?
What's that?
If he wanted to go up.
Well, there's
You know,
can
you
be
want-
tiers of what you can do within the position, right? So if he's an assistant right now, he might go up to a coordinator, and then you might scale that up to that could scale up to a director or something, and then it would be
Right.
him and Tim vying for power.
Well, I don't know about that.
I just hear-
The council rules the roost, but, I think, we do wanna give people opportunities to move up, to different jobs, and I think that's kind of the way it makes sense.
Do we
to kinda
have
do
those
that.
different jobs? I mean, I hear
You
you
would have
using
to-
words, but we don't
We
have
haven't-
those, do we?
Currently, if it's still in the books, it was, we had an EDA director, and then we had the community development director, but
Mike Martin used to be the community
development, planner.
Okay.
So we had the full-blown plan where that was cut.
So Mike Martin didn't have his job?
No, that's
He was
Oh, so we had
EDA planning,
EDA planning, zoning.
and
city administrator,
city administrator.
separate jobs.
Yeah, so he was, because we had, was it Randy Leff, I think? Is that who it
That was Mike Martin's. I don't know.
Administrator, right, but they,
Yes.
the point
when
is
you say
that
We had both.
Mike Martin is probably about 2 notches above where this guy's starting.
Right, that's right.
So he would
But
have
we
the
didn't
ability.
have this guy when Mike Martin was here.
Right, he didn't have an assistant, so it would be a process, he would go through that roadmap, right? Like, that's usually like when I hired my latest guy, we talked a lot about what does the roadmap look like for your career at MDT. And, this would be his roadmap, and if Casson, Casson builds another 30 apartment buildings, maybe we need to, have an assistant or whatever, right? So, right, you catch that, so.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm thinking is that we've gotten larger and our city
Well, we were put-
services and help has gotten smaller.
But we were contracting the EDA, and we were contracting the planning and zoning. We were doing that as a contract. Now we're trying to bring it back in-house.
Yeah,
So originally, 5.5 years ago, when I first got elected, those positions were cut as employees, and we
Mhm.
contracted both out, because at that time, we could do it for less than what we were paying an employee, and we felt we could get better services from those two.
who are we contracting that from?
CETA was the EDA, and Wesington Colger was the planning. So we have those two contractors. Well, now, as things have increased over the years, we could get somebody on staff for less than those contracts, so we could save a little bit of cash, theoretically.
And hopefully get better service.
And if we can get better services in-house, that'd be good. So it's just kind of the way the market flipped a little bit, but now we're hiring kind of an entry-level position versus the two contractors that have more expertise. So there's a learning curve, so there'll be some stuff that will probably still, especially on the planning side, that if it's complicated zoning or whatever it might be, we'll still pay them by the job to contract on that, so this person, because we've kind of overwhelmed staff.
Well,
over the last-
part of it is, I guess the biggest thing for me is it comes down to dollars and cents. I asked Robert, I said, what would it cost for 5 days a week for CETA? And he said, it'll be $100,000 next year, if you wanted it. Now, we're hiring an employee at $42,000 a year. Now, and we'll only have half their salary this year, but, now there's benefits. So, they may have
Right.
$15,000 in benefits, so that's not apples to apples, but, 'cause
Yeah.
we don't pay the CETA's benefits, but, plus we're getting 100% of their time.
On our,
For somebody working for Cass.
And we have someone who, my goal would be, I guess, just from a workflow perspective, and I know this is getting out of the EDA's kind of purvey completely, but, I have someone who's sitting up front, Robert doesn't answer the phone, he doesn't respond to customers, he doesn't, do any of that. Now we're gonna have a city employee who, even if, it's like me, sometimes the phone rings and they're all busy, I take the phone call, I wanna pay my utility bill. Well, I don't have the software to do that, but I can say, hey, I'll put you on hold and I'll get you to Cassie or to Linda or somebody else as soon as they're done with the customer. And I think that that's gonna be really important. The other thing it's gonna help us with is follow-up on the planning side and the permit side. One thing the council's run into is over the years, sometimes somebody puts a permit in, they say, here's what it's gonna look like, here's where my fence is gonna go or my building's gonna go, and then we say, okay, that looks good on your map, and then they build, and oh gosh, all of a sudden, that's a little too close. That fence is on the property line, or there's a house over on Second Street that's, a little too close to the property line. So I think it helps to have somebody now, we're not somebody who's gonna go out and measure Good, because here's the thing, I'm not gonna take the legal ramifications of that, of me saying, hey, you know, I can tell you it's too close. I'm not gonna tell you, you know, exactly where it is, or where the property pins are, because that's not something I know. But, I mean, it may...
Hardly
just-
anybody knows that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is that it kind of smooths that out, because before somebody gets into something, we can go, hey, this doesn't look right, doesn't meet the smell test. It just gives us more man-hours,
Yep.
because, you know, I don't have time to go out and look at every single one of these, I just don't. So, I think that's kind of where the council was going with this, was trying to just create it, and we'll see how it goes. You know, we try some things, and if it goes well, great. If it doesn't go well, then we may have to revisit it in the future, so.
One thing that was, the thing about economic development training, that was really good for me when I was doing it. I'd say, you know, if you have like a successful 2 years with this guy, you know, the National Development Council has the Economic Development Financial Professional Certification. It's a year-long process, but I would say, if you do that, you're gonna want to, it's a year-long and you have 4 times that you go up for like a week. And then there's like a certification test at the end, but I would say, you'd wanna basically say, you know, if you successfully complete this, basically you're gonna be on the hook for, you know, paying at least part of this back if you don't stay with us for another couple of years or something. But it was a really solid, training program, I thought. Worked a lot through just a lot of, just a whole host of, more on the finance side of economic development, which tends to be kind of the specialty that we want on the EDA side.
Yeah.
So that was a really good program.
Sure, no, I appreciate that. There'll be a lot of trainings, and you'll see those requests come through, I suppose, as they're developed. We kind of model this after what Byron does. Byron has an economic development planner they have in-house, so, Gene Monosmith's over there. Anyways, that's what I've got for that.
All right.
And if you do come up with something else that you want to add, just let me know and we'll get it added to the list.
Okay. Got any items for the August?
Well, it sounds like we want to invite, Mr. Luttrell to come,
If he owns the property by then.
if he owns the property.
If he doesn't own the property, we don't.
Yeah, if he doesn't own the property.
Okay, and then also Mr. Lonzo to give us an update on his project and how that's going timeline-wise.
Yeah.
Is there anything else anybody has? Otherwise, it might be a short August meeting, which would be fine.
I think, Chamber has we have a ribbon cutting July 11th, it sounds like. Well, this will be outside city limits, though. It's out at the golf course for that new, restaurant.
Oh, sure, Hidden Meadow, or Hidden...
Hidden Pines.
Hidden Pines.
Yeah, so, invited, but it's not out,
Okay,
it's outside
well, I'll
city
put it
limits.
on I'll put it out to the council.
We have a few more that are, I thought were on the docket, but it depends on their time frame, like that smoke shop and the general store and, you know, right, hard to say.
Sure.
And then I think we're waiting we were waiting to hear back on a groundbreaking thing for the apartment guys.
Yeah, and I know that, well, I mean, you've been following those emails too, Tom, I think, back and forth. So, I know the most recent email I got from Mr. Nolander was, they're hoping to do a closing on the 15th. I don't think that's gonna happen, because the council's not approving the final plat until the 13th. So I told them that this morning, that I thought I was gonna have to go back a little bit, because it won't even be, I mean, the county won't have it split out, and it won't really be ready to do a closing yet. But I would guess probably at the end of this month, maybe. That's what I'm hoping for, is maybe they can put some shovels in the ground at the end of July, so.
So will they actually start doing their stuff before we get the road put in?
They will, yeah. They'll be able to do a lot of their ground. In fact, they'll need to do a lot of their ground work before we get going. I mean, I think this year the likelihood is that we'll maybe get our sewer and water lines extended and the electric. I'm not sure if they probably won't pave this year. They'll probably put lifts in the spring.
Yep.
And they may only get the first lift in the spring before they even open.
Our bids are coming back here.
Our bids are coming back next week.
Next week.
Yep,
So, for August, right now, if you just got those 2 and you have nothing else, I suggest we push it off to September. It ain't gonna,
Well, but if
he needs the loan.
If the gentleman from the concrete
Sure.
place owns the land by then, he wants to come make a formal
Yeah.
request, I think we should.
Yeah, you're right.
Come for that.
I was just thinking,
Yeah, if it comes down to he
Full of the
doesn't,
time.
and Joe can give us, and you could email us up.
yeah, I mean, I'll evaluate that, I don't wanna waste your time either. So if we don't have a lot of content, I even thought about it today, we didn't have a ton, but I figured, what the heck, we're
Oh.
already planning on it, so.
It was,
But yeah,
I-
if we don't have a lot of content, we may just move it off, but if we have what we wanna have, we've got our groups coming, then we'll stop it.
yeah, that was the only suggestion I had, just so, make it
What is going to be the criteria for this impacting as far as the construction, and we're gonna have a 0% loan for Main Street businesses?
What do you mean, what is it gonna be impacting, Janice?
Oh, we were,
Businesses impacted.
oh, you mean from the 57 construction, that?
Yes.
We were, I don't remember what the definition was on the impact. I remember the concept was modeled after, we had offered that, thing during the early parts of COVID, those business disruption things. So
Yes.
I think somebody would have to come in here and say, you know, and make the case they've been disrupted by the construction.
So we don't have criteria as to what
Yeah, I mean, I think when that
qualifications
packet
that
was
we want
approved, I have
them
to go
to
back
meet.
to when you guys approved that one. I don't remember what exactly they had in the packet that day, but I mean, it was Main Street or Main Street adjacent businesses, and they had to bring in their documentation, and there was a certain number of different factors, I think rent and wages, a few other things were included in what could be funded through those loans. But I'd have to go look back at the packet when you guys approved, I think you approved that in March.
There was some criteria put on it.
Yeah, I just remember
Yeah.
that.
But it was something to do with, you had to prove that you were
Losing money
disrupted, yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow
Due to-
your business was disrupted because
was
of it.
affected.
There'll be a couple that might be, a
Yeah.
couple that might not, I mean, I don't.
Well, you could look that up for next month.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can take the information you guys approved and I can include it again in next month's packet too. I'm
Yeah.
just looking right now, so.
I guess,
I mean, at this point, I don't know there'll be a ton of businesses directly impacted, just because of the scope will be more of a, it's just not gonna reach into the street that far, so I mean, maybe it would be more of a subsidiary impact, I guess, than anything else.
The option's there.
Yeah.
Well, is that it? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.